Are you finding it more challenging to stay ahead of the curve in digital marketing? Struggling to balance AI advancements with practical strategies to boost your e-commerce traffic and sales? Well, you're not alone. In today's episode of Talk Commerce, we sit down with Udayan Bose, CEO of NetElixir, to dive deep into practical AI tools, Google's evolving search landscape, and how to leverage both of these to supercharge your e-commerce business. From AI-powered marketing tools to the latest discoveries about Google search trends, Udayan shares insights that will help you stay ahead of the competition by embracing the AI revolution. Get ready to unlock your e-commerce potential using actionable AI strategies. Tune in to discover the latest tools, trends, and tactics you can apply immediately to drive real results. Welcome to Talk Commerce, the podcast where we unpack the world of e-commerce and online marketing. I'm Brent Peterson, and each week we bring you the latest insights and strategies to help your business thrive online. Talk Commerce is produced and supported by ContentBasis.io. This podcast is my creative outlet and has been going now for 3 years. We are approaching 1,000 downloads every week and growing. If you are new to this podcast, give it a listen or check out the fantastic content on our website. From exploring effective marketing tactics to dissecting the trends shaping the digital marketplace, we've got you covered, and we're here to guide you through the ever-evolving landscape of e-commerce. But we're not just here to talk, we're here to engage. Got thoughts, questions, or you want to hear a really funny joke? I'd love to hear from you. Email me at brent@talkcommerce.com and let's keep the conversation going. Ready to boost your online presence? Tune in and stay ahead of the curve with Talk Commerce. Don't forget to subscribe for the full experience and share your feedback.
You're listening to Talk Commerce. Subscribe and download at talk-commerce.com.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Commerce. Today I have Udayan Bose. He is from NetElixir. Udayan has been on the show before, and we're always excited to talk to him, especially around Gen AI and Google and all the fun things. Udayan, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and give us a passion in your life.
Awesome. Brent, it's so amazing to really sort of join back this cast with you. I mean, I had a blast last time when we talked, so thank you so much for having me again on this show. My name is Udayan Bose, and I'm the founder and CEO of NetElixir. We are an AI-first digital agency. By AI-first digital agency, I think we have really built our own machine learning platform through which we are able to uncover hidden revenues from the Google ads and Meta ads and so on. It's a combination of machine learning and predictive optimization. And today, what I'm going to be discussing a lot and sharing with all of you is our latest, and really excited about that, is basically our first 3 Gen AI tools sprint. So we really have taken the API from GPT and built a security layer on top of that, and really sort of started imposing the workflows for SEO and paid search, etc. So we have really built our own Gen AI powered marketing operating system. And these are 3 tools which our team has been very successfully using as well, which we wanted to launch and share with all of your viewers as well to check it out for free. So very passionate about AI, really a big believer in this concept that humans that use AI will always beat humans that do not use AI. And that's, I think, what my topic of discussion is, and really excited to be here again.
That's perfect. Thank you. Before we get started, though, you have volunteered to listen to a joke and give me a rating. Call it the free joke project still, but you'll give me a rating 1 through 5.
Absolutely.
So here we go. I heard they made the world's strongest suction cup. I'm not quite sure how they pulled it off.
I would actually give you a 4 out of 5, Brent.
All right. Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Great. Oh, yeah. So, I do. Everybody looks at GPT and they think of generative AI, and they don't always think about the analytical portion and how it can help. So, give us an idea of how you're going beyond just generative AI and helping people with more of the analytics portion and more of the predictive portions that people can use AI.
Yeah, so I think we started building our machine learning platform, Brent, way back in 2017, and we wanted to tackle an important problem which we have experienced firsthand, working with over 200 retail and direct to consumer e-commerce companies, and the problem was a small percentage of the customers drive a big chunk of revenues. And we wanted to combine machine learning and predictive analytics to see if we can predict which of the customers are likely to be a higher value customer, right? I mean, who's likely to spend anywhere between 3 times to 10 times more than the average customer with your website. We were able to pull it off around just around COVID times. And then we started building some sub algorithms as well. For example, now our machine learning can actually predict with almost a 92% accuracy which of your customers are likely to churn, which of the customers are likely to come back in the next 2 months and buy again, what is the estimated purchase value going to be in the next 12 months, etc. So that's, I think, the first part, entirely driven by machine learning algorithms and works amazing with first party data. So we have first party data integration with Shopify, BigCommerce, and so on. So that, I think that's, I think, the first part. Gen AI really sort of got into, I think, swept the entire world of uh, just post launch. I think it was roughly around end of 2022. Uh, ChatGPT 3 at that point in time was launched on 30th November 22. And we initially had to just sort of soak it in as to what does it even mean. We are extremely pro technology, so any new technology, we are probably one of the first ones, if not the first ones, to dive in and just do some testing and playing around. And we quickly figured out by the month of about Feb that this can potentially transform work. When I say transform work, we said that this has the opportunity of really sort of partnering with humans and taking on a lot of the work which can be done by machines a lot quicker, thereby releasing a lot of time, a lot of time which gets freed up or opened up for the humans to think about other creative projects which pertains to their business growth and so on and so forth. So we started a pretty audacious project, Brent, and the project was called Elixir GPT. We wanted to build our security layer on top of GPT or Chat GPT, essentially, uh, overall platform. So use their APIs, build our own security layer. Security was important because we knew that anything that you put into Chat GPT is available in open internet. And understandably, as an agency, we work with a lot of very confidential information pertaining to advertising campaigns on Google, Meta, TikTok, and so on. And we didn't really want any of that. So we had to spend about 7 months building our security layer on top of that, just to ensure that none of this information gets really leaked out or shared out, and so on and so forth. And then on top of that, we started to really map out all of our workflows. When I say mapping out workflows, we were talking about, let us say you do SEO optimization for a Shopify customer. So there are certain steps. It's a sequence of steps that you normally take. And we said that what are the different tasks involved through this entire sequence. So let us say there are about 15 tasks which are there in this entire sequence to the point that you really get to the first round of optimization or SEO. And we said that which of these tasks can be also done by generative AI much quicker and much better as well. And we identified, I think, across the processes, whether it is paid search management, SEO, paid social, and so on, we identified initially about 25% of all the tasks which could be done by Gen AI. So we started building those tools, or very specific, we use those as problem cases or use cases, and started building essentially very specific Gen AI tools or widgets, effectively, which sat on top of our what we call Elixir GPT, our secure layer GPT. And that was remarkably successful. That actually, by the end of last year, we had been able to complete the project. The project was completed around end of October, and then just during the holiday season, we were able to test it out at high volume because we work with a lot of holiday customers. and we saw almost a 20% lift in the overall productivity. So the team had 20% of their time freed, which they could really engage in other things. So we said that why, I mean, beginning of this year, we said that why don't we start to release some of these tools to people for free. Let them test it out. We knew as to that these tools worked because we have been using them for now almost a year now, like 8 9 months now, and we said that why not really give it out. So effectively, we launched essentially last Friday, and you are the first time we are just this is publicly been announced that we are going ahead and sharing our first lot of first three tools essentially. Yeah, and the platform is called LXRsmart.ai. I can probably sort of type it essentially as well. It is LXRsmart.ai, Brent. So that's the part which effectively I would really want to sort of offer. And it has just three very simple tools. One of the tools in LXR Smart essentially helps you just write meta titles for your SEO rankings and just cleans up your description. And typically, writing a meta title and specifically with bulk often takes some time, probably about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And in this case, you could really get all of these things done within seconds. The second tool that we have is more of an image alt text recommender. Again, a very geeky sounding, a very tech SEO sounding one. And this is where we found some tremendous success because even if you had used ChatGPT, you probably can upload one image at a time, but we really allow you bulk upload of about 10 images. And for all of them, you are automatically getting this image alt text recommendations sort of there. And through one click, you can really append them as well. And the last one has been incredibly useful as well because we manage literally a few hundred of millions of dollars essentially in terms of Google and Microsoft ad spend annually. And ad copy and testing ad copy is a big thing. And this really enabled us to really use Gen AI to go ahead and write those in a very fine tuned, customized manner and really in a format which suits DSA, RSAs, and so on and so forth. So, have been extremely helpful and extremely useful. And we are seeing collectively, typically, let us say for a company which probably has randomly, right? Maybe about 1,000 keywords that it is advertising on SEO and paid search. Typically, we believe that the time saving per session of use can be almost about 3 hours. So we figured that if folks are using this tool in a week, it can, let us say, if you do it even once in a month, probably you have about 12 to 15 hours of saving, which is not bad, which can really be utilized in much better other areas as well. So that's the idea. We are extremely passionate about this, Brent. How can we really truly utilize AI to really transform as to how advertising is done? That's the Elixir Insights tool that we have. And this one is our newest, essentially, very fresh launch just end of last week, which is Elixir Smart. How can we really help you do more with less?
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to look at the productivity boost, and I think a lot of the tools don't recognize or they don't advertise that you will save all this time
Hmm.
around what you're trying to do. And maybe some bosses may think, I'm introducing this thing that lets my people be more lazy rather than more productive. Why do you think that a lot of e-commerce platforms haven't already done this? It just seems like low-hanging fruit. And I specifically think about Adobe Commerce and how they have Adobe Sensei that they released way back in 2018 that they
Yeah,
still haven't utilized or
right.
marketized that. They're still just doing Firefly, which is nothing to do
So,
with the generative or with the e-commerce portion of it. Why do you think they're just so lagging behind?
So that's a great comment, actually, Brett. In fact, there was a Goldman Sachs report which came out in the last month. I can probably share with you the link of the report as well, which said that the adoption of Gen AI tools has apparently dropped dramatically because there has not been any measurable impact in terms of, or probably even applicable areas have not been identified, and the impact has not been measurable. And it's an interesting paper, which I do not agree with, primarily because that's where it's more of a devalidation for our side. So some of the points though mentioned in the paper as to why there is a bit of a slow adoption in some of these tools, I think they talk about three things broadly, Brent, which prevents the adoption of any such cutting edge technology or new technology, and I mean I would say transformative technology, right? In this case, the first one is just a level of discomfort that humans have initially adopting anything which potentially may have an impact on how they have worked all the time, right? So I have been used to working in such a way, and suddenly there comes a tool, so I really have to change how I really sort of work and apply this, right? So where does the tool, what role does the tool play in my day-to-day work life is a very important component here, right? That's, I think, one of the things which has been called out. The second thing which has been called out is many cases, I think the productivity is a collection of multiple tasks and incremental improvements per task. And if it is not done on a continued basis, it's difficult for what is called the aggregation of marginal gains or incremental gains to add up. So it really requires, it sort of just grows and builds over the time. Just a simple example. Through the Elixir Smart example that I gave, these free tools, typically it's about a maybe a once a week you will do these tasks. You save about 3 hours per week. So in a month you are still probably saving about 12 to 15 hours, right? But when you really do it every month, it really adds up. It gets to 150 hours suddenly in a month. So that's where the only thing is the continuity is the second part. The continuity sometimes does not get prompted because the immediate session wise gains may be smaller. So it's just maybe marginal gains or incremental gains. And most people are not willing to wait or don't have the patience to wait all through to really see the aggregation happening. So it's almost a bit of an atomic habits playing out in a different way. And the third part, I would think, is just, I would, for a lack of better word, say a little bit of a fear as well. Little bit of a fear in the sense that will this task going away really dent the belief that I am really useful for the company or the organization, right? Will it take away a certain part which really legitimizes my role in the company? Now, most people, I think, are still struggling to shift from this adversarial relationship with AI to more of a collaborative relationship. And it will take time because it's at the end of it, it's a big step forward. And at some point in time, we really have to acknowledge the fact that the future is going to look like this, where humans and AI really collaborate. I mean, that's going to be the case, if not today, then tomorrow. So the faster you sort of get onto the bandwagon, the more successful you likely are to be. And those are, I think, the three reasons, Brent, that I would call out, which has typically really seen almost like this curve, which is called gradually things happen, and then it suddenly happens. And the more, let us say, future forward companies get into the gradual phase, and the others essentially follow in the sudden phase when the entire leap is happening, and that not much of a competitive advantage can be gained then.
What do you think right now the models are increasing in their scope and their usability so quickly that it changes often week over week?
Right.
And now there's this new zero one. There's a
Yeah.
new GPT out already that's available for enterprise clients,
Yeah.
and it's making sometimes the return results are vastly different week over
Hmm.
week, even on the exact same
Hmm.
prompt. Do you think there's going to be a level off at some point that allows people like you that are using the APIs to be more determinate of what you get? And
Yeah.
the second part of that question is, how are you ensuring that you are getting consistent data over time right now?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I really look at it from the user perspective, Brent. Right. So for me, I mean, 4.0 is good enough, right? So do I really need anything more for the technology and the purpose that we have? So I really start from the goals that I'm trying to accomplish essentially, or what the purpose of my using Gen AI is. Now, will O1 sort of give me an advantage through reasoning? I'm probably, but I think I am good for now. So that's where it is a question of starting with the goal and really seeing as to understanding that the Gen AI is a tool for you to really reach that goal. right? And that's, I think, the first part which I really wanted to emphasize. In terms of the model, the recent one, the O1 essentially, apparently has some reasoning capabilities as well. So this is the first time it is becoming oddly and scarily human-like, right? So reasoning capabilities and other stuff. The only question is, I am at that this point in time not very comfortable that the reasoning be done by AI, primarily because then since it is accessing open data, so that's where I think everyone. So the point that I'm trying to make is everyone will have their own cutoff, and I think the other part which cannot be ignored is the cost of Gen AI as well. So there was this brilliant piece which came out from the Wharton professor Ethan Mollick. I think it sort of just came out last Monday, and he talks about that maybe at some point in time we should think about GPT-5 being the level of factor, right? Do we need anything more or anything more sophisticated, right? Or let the application areas really catch up to five? I think that's what I'm really thinking of as well. For us at this point in time, for the purposes for, let us say, things like digital marketing purposes, we are pretty well set with 4.0. And understandably, I think that's where we are trying to sort of get to as well. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the zero-click searches for Google and how Google is changing the whole search landscape. Talk a little bit about that.
So this has been an interesting one. So I think again I get to the point, Brent, that such game-changing technologies like Gen AI, things happen gradually and then suddenly, right? So we are very clearly sort of getting into a situation where we see things happening suddenly. When I talk about suddenly, we are talking about essentially a situation where, I mean, let us say AI overviews, once it was launched, we saw that essentially, I think the number of clicks which happened on the Google SEO links dropped. Now, that was an assumption. There was some amount of talk about this concept called zero click SERPs or zero click search engine result pages. Now, what really happened with that, Brent, was we wanted to really, I mean, as a company, we are constantly for the survey and the research part. So we wanted to test it out ourselves. So we commissioned an interesting study which handpicked about 1,000 keywords from about five retail e-commerce categories. And we wanted to compare what is the number of clicks that the SEO listing is getting pre and post AI overviews. We have all of this data pre AI overviews launch, and we started collecting this data post AI overviews launch as well. I was quite amazed to see that after the AI overviews launched, I think at every stage, the navigational search queries, the transactional search queries, informational search queries, there was a drop across the board. But very specifically on the informational search queries, the click through rates actually diminished quite a bit. Now, if you really sort of think of it, informational search queries mostly are questions, right? I'm asking something and I'm sort of asking a question, trying to find something out. And most likely, I mean, the AI overviews is answering that question quite adequately, right? It may not give you a huge amount of range, but then when you compare the benefits of time saving from your not having to click into different links and different sites versus the AI overviews giving this, I think I personally really prefer time saving a lot more compared to, because I'm getting information which is good enough for me. So I think that good enough component I think is an important component. So what we saw was very specifically in the navigational search queries and informational search queries, there was a pretty big dent. Surprisingly, transactional search queries, I had not really expected the clicks dropping as much. But in the transactional search queries, also there was a fair amount of drop in clicks as well. Again, I can sort of share, we have created a one page PDF as well. So I can really sort of attach it for your customers or your viewers as well. So that was the interesting part. So the question, I mean, two questions are ramifications of this. One, this is still the initial phase of AI overviews, right? The Gen AI sort of thing, and so on. So my first question, I think, has been discussed about for a long time. And that question is the future of search a chatbot search or a chatbot led search? So that's, I think, the first question. So far, based on the results, we cannot completely ignore the fact that the search as a function may actually be replaced by chatting as a function in this case, right? A chatbot led sort of a functionality. So that's a massive one. The second one, which has a more immediate implication, and specifically many of your viewers may be sort of Shopify e-commerce companies or big commerce e-commerce companies and so on. Google accounts for still over 50% of all the traffic driven to your site. Let us say unique number, unique visitors to your site. If that number suddenly starts falling, the folks coming to your website, then you have a problem, right? Because half of your traffic comes from Google. If that number, that traffic keeps falling or continues to fall during holiday season, especially, what options do you have? How will you really sort of balance out the fact that this decline also directly is proportional to maybe potential loss in the number of conversions as well or orders as well, and as a result of a loss of our revenue also, right? So those are, I think, the two things. One is a slightly long-term strategic ramification, which is more of is search. This is the future of search driven by chatbots or search bots, let us say. And the second part, effectively, is much more immediate, right? I mean, 50% of the traffic plus essentially comes from Google or driven by Google, the unique visitors. I mean, what if that drops? Then what happens? Right. So effectively, how do you really make up for the direct to consumer, the website traffic and the conversions there? Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I mean that's a problem for Google as well, right? Because
Massive
Google
problem.
makes their money, and if you're suddenly dropping, you're going to start looking for other solutions, and picking up other. There's a myriad of social platforms now that
Yeah,
are taking that traffic without even having to send it to your site. So you may
exactly,
search on TikTok, and you may buy directly on TikTok,
exactly,
and
exactly.
that's a direct competition with Google that they don't even see. What else do you see in that's coming up then in terms of how people are going to use search and how Google? Well, I think one interesting thing is the flip
Hmm.
flop Google has done on content.
Yeah,
Originally, they said they're going to
yeah,
penalize AI
right,
content. Then they came out with Gemini, or
right,
they
right,
really pushed Gemini, and now they're
right.
kind of flip flopping, right? Where do you think that's going to go?
It's an interesting one, Brent, because again, this is purely my candid personal opinion. So I am sort of making a pretty big comment out here. I think Google is yet to fully recover from that shock that they got when ChatGPT was launched end of 2022, and they have not still fully recovered. They essentially are, I would believe, still playing the catch-up game in terms of Gen AI, which I think ChatGPT very clearly is leading this game by a wide margin, right? And on top of that, you correctly mentioned that there are multiple other forces which are in play as well. In the last 1.5, 2 years, and we recently did our holiday forecast, the marketplace searches have really spiraled up. They have really gone up. So a lot of people are really searching on the marketplaces. Google already had lost about, I think, 65, 70% of the searches, product searches happening to, let us say, Amazon and something. So I think that is continuing to go up. For example, the other example is like the TikTok and Gen Z very clearly. So within the walled garden, the search and shop behavior is going up. Now, if you think of it, let us say you are running Google, you are having to deal with multiple such mega forces. One is the Gen AI force, which really forces you to get into AI overviews, which you knew from the beginning would actually sort of, to an extent, cannibalize the advertising opportunities that you have, which is probably going to happen at this point in time. The second part is you are seeing a fair amount of traffic really move to the walled gardens just because of the simplicity, and the walled gardens like the TikToks and the Facebooks of the world, etc., and Amazon are sort of getting a back share. And then on top of this comes the third big blow, which is all these antitrust rulings which the Google is sort of having to deal with. So I don't really envy them at this point in time, honestly. So when they had started off, and this is purely my sort of opinion on this thing. Initially, when they started off, they had the right thing in their mind that we will not really use generative AI-led content. I think they underestimated the power of Gen AI and the usage and the adoption of Gen AI. Apparently, I mean, recently ChatGPT came out with a number that they have 200 million active users now, right? So if suddenly the force has become so big that even a giant like Google essentially has to flip flop and sort of go back on what it really sort of came up with a plan. So that's the part, I think, Brent, which we are going to are seeing very clearly from Google. And now this ad tech sort of antitrust rulings which are sort of just going on. This case will, that this trial will, I think, come to an end roughly around the mid of October, right? 9th September it started, around mid of October it'll end. And we'll get to know as to what happens. But the previous one, which happened on Google search, unfortunately did not go in their favor, which has an implication as well. So it's a difficult situation. There are, it's almost like you have this elephant, and there are multiple areas where they are getting poked by different competitors, right? So you are really sort of, and these competitors are not just companies; these are mega forces like generative AI, and that's what I think it remains to be seen as to how exactly do they deal with it. Three questions that I would sort of put. I think the first part, and maybe this is, I wouldn't say as much of a question. I'll just probably make a comment initially, Brent, and this is just to probably again maybe strengthen the point that I mentioned initially. I said that generative AI is such a force at this point in time. You may dislike, you may hate Gen AI, but you don't have an option but to really collaborate with Gen AI in the future. And Google's flip flopping on the content is just exactly the validation which I think my statement probably gets directly there as such, right? Because when a company of the size of Google and the clout of Google really sort of flip flops on this entire their content policy, then I mean, I think any other business is too small and too trivial to really sort of go ahead and just try to fight and sort of really stop and say that no, we will not really ride the Gen AI band. So that's, I think, a message which I wanted to pass. But there are three things which I think Google now sort of getting into the question. The first question is, how do they monetize all of this lost opportunity? You're right. I didn't want to sort of mention it, sort of glad that he sort of brought it up directly. But yeah, I mean, people are not getting clicks, but you are losing money, right? So how exactly will Google really make up for this lost revenue? What is the monetization? There is currently no monetization paths. The search engine, I mean, the generative AI chat engine Perplexity tried to come up with some options. I think it's just more of a pre, I would say pre alpha or beta stage, whatever it is, right? I don't think it has been proven. I personally don't think it really has too much weight. So what is the monetization model? Because without monetization model, understandably, the machine cannot really sort of keep going. The second is a fundamental question which I hate to bring up, but I have to bring up, which is essentially, again, it has flip flopped on its entire third party cookie, first party cookie policy as well, if you remember, Brent. Right? So when we had met earlier in the year, the entire thing was the first party cookies are the future, and Chrome is going to deprecate the third party cookies by the end of this year and all the stuff, right? So they went back on that decision a couple of months back, right? But at the same time, I mean, Microsoft Edge is going to deprecate the cookies by the end of this year. Safari and Firefox already have really sort of just gone to the first party sort of a route. And I think the first party future is here and now. So Google can keep on relying on the fact that Chrome has a big clout. But honestly speaking, because if all of the other really almost like gang up essentially on Google, which very clearly is happening now, then I think it has to really be ready for a first party future. Now, if the first party future is there, we have seen Google struggles. I'm pretty sure, Brent, you would have seen Google struggles with whether it is introducing a AI module like Performance Max, or let us say struggling with the GA4, and how sort of GA4 adoption has been much worse compared to what Google had expected initially, and they have really extended that. So there have been multiple forces there as well. So that becomes another problem. They just have tried to postpone the problem or the issue, but it is coming. I think it's there for all practical purposes. So how does Google really reinvent itself for a first party world? I think is the next question. And the third question, these are all questions for Google. I think, I hope someone from Google listens to this. And the third fundamental question is, how does Google utilize its various assets it still has, the digital assets, to build a stronger business? And I think there is an opportunity. I think there is a massive opportunity in YouTube, which is significantly undertapped still, primarily because of multiple reasons, whatever it is. I think there is a massive opportunity and many of their other assets as well. So, what does that new Google, I don't know, 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, whatever it is, strategy looks like, which helps it to bounce back, factoring in that the first two things are happening. right? Whether Google likes it or not, there is a monetization impact. Whether Google likes it or not, the first party world is here, right? Knowing that, if you were the CEO of Google, how would you really rethink your entire strategy? So, pretty difficult and hard hitting questions directly for Google as such.
Yeah, such we such interesting concepts, and there's so much more we could talk about.
Right.
Um, so we have a few minutes left. It is lxrsmart.ai is your new
Yep.
tool, and we'll make sure we get that in the show notes. And I really
Awesome. Thank you.
appreciate you talking about that. We'll have to schedule a call in another 6 months to see where you like,
Absolutely. How my
what's
productivity
changed and where your
improvement.
predictions are at.
Sure, 100%. I would love to do that.
Udayan, as we close out, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything you want. What would you like to promote or plug today?
Well, I think more than promotion, I speak probably on the behalf of an AI first agency, Brent, which has been remarkably successful embracing AI and rethinking as to how marketing work in this new AI plus world really sort of looks like. And I call it AI plus world primarily because like humans plus AI, I think, have a significant advantage over humans without AI. So my shameless plug would be for the viewers of this show to test drive these free tools in elixrsmart.ai, and we would really appreciate if you can send me the feedback directly. I mean, my email address, you already know, I can sort of put my email address there as well. I am very open to your feedback. And there is a big reason why I'm sort of passing out my email address directly, Brent. Primarily because we are at a very, very initial stage in this humans plus AI revolution, which I think is happening. And I really want to activate that entire ecosystem because this is a much bigger force than one or two companies or individually to solve. But I think collectively, if we all join forces as marketers and we really exchange ideas freely and openly, and we really go into this with an open mindset and embrace AI, I think all of us will come out tremendous winners at the end of it. So it would be as much of a shameless plug for embracing Gen AI tools and technologies, as obviously I would hope that you use our tools Elixir smart.ai and share directly your feedback with me as such. But thanks for
Perfect,
the
and I'll make
opportunity. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I'll make sure we get all that into the show notes, and it's lxrsmart.ai is the URL, and I would encourage everybody to go there and try it out. Udayan, it's been such a great pleasure to speak to you today. And
Absolutely a pleasure. Yeah.
Udayan Bose is the CEO of NetElixir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent. Such an honor.
Talk Commerce is a production of Content Basis LLC. For more creative content, go to contentbasis.io.